We have all the laws in place. We make it illegal for you to be here. We have all the laws to do that. We have 287G right here in the state of California that empowers those local law enforcement to assist those federal officers. Make it illegal to hire you, and we could do that through E-Verify. E-Verify, and we'll do that with a tax credit to incentivize small business to use it. And then finally, we'll cut social services to you if you're not a legal resident here. 12 million folks will go home. That's my proposition for how to clean it up. We need to complete the border fence, $862 billion of stimulus, supposedly shovel-ready jobs. The president just admitted that he did lie to us when he said they were shovel-ready. He just admitted, hey, I didn't even know what a shovel-ready job was. Your congressman bought that, though. He bought that, $862 billion of our youth money, our next generation's money. So we need to complete that border fence, empower local law enforcement. That way we can open up for legal immigration. And to you farmers out there, I absolutely recognize there are jobs Americans won't work. I absolutely recognize there is a need for guest worker. We need to do it legally. We need to do it the right way. So I do understand there's a need for that. I support guest worker.
Mr. Filner, would you like me to repeat the question?
No. Obviously, critical issue for our area. And let me tell you one way not to do it, because I think my opponent supports the attempt in Arizona to preempt federal law and take an unconstitutional approach to those who are Thank you for your intelligent response.
Any heckling, I will stop the clock and give the candidate a chance to fulfill the time that you're taking. So please keep your voices down.
Let me repeat. The way not to do it is to take an unconstitutional approach as they did in Arizona. What makes this country different from virtually every country in the world is the fact that we don't need papers. If you're a citizen, you don't need papers. What is the first thing a totalitarian regime does? It requires papers, wants to know where people are and who they are. So you have people who will be stopped for not having papers who are citizens of this country. Only by racial profiling can you do that.
I'm just going to say this. What do you think?
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Filner, do you believe...
I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
I didn't have anywhere near 2 minutes, and the lights are not on here.
My apologies.
Thank you. I got a lot more that I want to boost, so let me keep going.
Let's add 15 seconds back to the
And what
clock.
we need here, and was not mentioned by my opponent, is what we call comprehensive immigration reform. Comprehensive immigration reform. Yes, we have to secure the borders with more border patrol. Yes, we have to have a more streamlined approach toward guest workers, as is exhibited in the so-called ag jobs bill that will be before us in Congress. And yes, we have to have a path toward citizenship for those who have been here for decades. No one has suggested deporting 20 million people. So what are we going to do? I think we have to establish people to go to the end of the line with fines, but to establish a path toward citizenship. That is what we're going to get out of comprehensive immigration reform.
Thank you.
Can I rebut that?
Let's do one more set. Two, if you can.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Popaditch had a question.
Yeah, can I offer a rebuttal to that?
Not in this segment.
Not
in the
in
next
this
section. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Filner, do you believe that tax increases hurt job creation?
Yeah, sure. If you tax the middle class, and in fact, the so-called Bush tax cuts, which were referred to by my opponent, the Democratic Party wanted to pass 98% of those on the middle class of America, to free up the middle class to be more productive and to have that spending power. What the Republicans did is hold 98% of us, I suspect almost all of us in this room, from getting those tax cuts, holding hostage those to the 2% of our nation, those who make $1 million or more, also from getting those tax cuts. Those people will get several hundred thousand dollars in tax cuts. $1 trillion worth of revenue that could go toward decreasing the deficits, which I hear we're all concerned with. So, yes, let's give the middle class the tax cuts that they deserve and have worked so hard for, but don't hold hostage those tax cuts to shill for the richest amongst us. The richest amongst us do not need those tax cuts at this moment. Let us free up the middle class and do the job right.
Thank you. Mr. Popaditch.
And the question was, do I believe tax cuts incentivize
Hurt job creation.
Hurt job creation. Tax cuts are the key to job creation. And I find it interesting that my opponent is out here running against what somebody in the room isn't talking. I wasn't there, so I don't know why he's running against me, and neither was he, to make the case for you. I absolutely believe in renewing the Bush tax cuts, and I would have made a case for you. I would have made a case for you. I wouldn't have been off campaigning. I would have been there making a case for you that these tax cuts are absolutely necessary. My opponent voted against the last renewal of the Bush tax cuts in 2006. So be careful what you're listening to out of him. He's got a record. He voted against them last time. 70% of our new jobs are going to come from small business. Small businesses are taxed at that rate. That what he's talking about, those wealthiest of Americans, that's small business. And I tell you, only somebody who's never had a job would say that, gee, thinks that the worker in our community goes to work every day and says, gee, I hope my employer loses money today. And only somebody who doesn't go buy his own groceries thinks that if you raise the tax on the grocery store owner, he's going to do anything other than raise the price of milk. The only difference is when we do it their way, where we take it away from those richest, and then you have to come to Prince Filner for a handout at some point. When we do it that way, you never get it back. You ended up with a 30% unemployment rate. We have a 12% unemployment rate on the other side of the hill. Washington, D.C., they've got full employment, 5% unemployment rate. This redistribution of wealth doesn't work. It's un-American. It's against the Constitution. I totally reject it. Tax cuts for every American. Lower tax rate will increase tax revenue, and we'll start paying down that deficit. We proved it in the 80s. Ronald Reagan proved it. Lower tax rate grew the GDP, and we worked down that deficit. Lower the taxes.
Thank you. We'll move on to question block number 2, and let me go through this one real quick. This is a little more complicated. The second phase of questioning will be single candidate questions with rebuttal and response. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for their initial answer, a 1-minute rebuttal is allowed, and then a 30-second response from the original answerer. If needed, answers to the follow-up questions by the moderator will be limited to 30 seconds. Follow-up questions may only be asked by myself. Let's go.
Thank you. Mr. Popaditch, what do you consider to be the top issues facing our region, and how do you tend to address it as our congressman?
Top issue is employment. It's jobs. It's absolutely jobs. And as I said earlier, there is absolutely 3 things we can do to do that. We can increase capital in here for investment, and there's 2 ways to do that. We can make it easier to borrow money, and I got to tell you, this one we've seen through this Pelosi Congress, through a lot of Bob Filner policies here, is that when you start picking winners and losers for who gets easy credit and who doesn't, we all end up being losers. All I have to do is point to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So on that one, I got to say I'm not so much of an advocate of it, one level playing field for everybody. But lower the tax. But lower the taxes for everybody. Lower the taxes across the board, and it's right up right now. Renew the Bush tax cuts. That makes every congressman go on the record right now as to whether or not they support keeping the revenue here in the community or sending it off to Washington, D.C., and you have to come begging your congressman for a scrap, for an earmark. That's baloney. That's bad government. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The government should keep their hands out of as much of your money as possible. As I've said before, I believe in deregulation. I think that's the key to growing business out here, in particular those green jobs. Those green jobs are being held up by regulation. I watched the EPA go into the Farm Bureau, and that EPA went in there and told those farmers that they were going to do this, 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 and this, and if they didn't do it, he was going to cut their tax money. And I looked at that individual and I said, who the heck elected you? We need to stop these regulators from making law that are taking things out of your community. Deregulation, and let's get rid of those unknowns. Repeal Obamacare, no more cap and trade. I'm going to give you back whatever left of stimulus we haven't spent yet.
So much to rebut. Where do I begin? Regulations. You know, a lot of us, when we go to a restaurant or cook a steak, we do so with a lot of confidence because we have an agricultural inspection service making sure that that steak is okay to eat. When we fly a plane, and if you're elected, you got to fly back and forth all the time to Washington. Why do we fly with such safety? Because we got the air traffic controllers there. We could go on and on and on. There's some regulations that you love. It's the regulations that sort of, I guess, go after big business or something. That's what you object to. There's you know, we got red lights. Wow, that's regulation. That really hurts our freedom here. You know, an ordered society has some regulations, and we have advanced. And anybody, you guys all applauded, oh, we don't have global warming. I got news for you, babies. We do.
Okay, please keep it down. We're on a time frame here. Mr. Popaditch.
Well, what is this portion for me to rebut his answer?
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Oh, I'm good with my first answer compared to that.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Next question, please.
Mr. Filner, healthcare reform was recently passed and insurance rates continue to go up. Polls show most Americans oppose this reform. Why is this happening? What is good and what is not good about the bill?
Let me tell you all something. I voted for the health care reform bill, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. There's 140,000 people in our district, Mr. Popaditch, who do not have health insurance. When this bill goes into full effect, 130,000 of them will. I hope your party tries to repeal it. Make my day. You know, try to repeal the fact that infants who are born with deformities or asthma or other pre-existing conditions are now denied, and after the health care reform bill, are not denied. You try to repeal the fact that seniors who have to pay so much of their prescription drugs will get at least a 50% rebate. Try to repeal that. Try to repeal the fact that that pre-existing conditions for any other citizen cannot be the reason for denial of health insurance. Try to repeal that. And try to repeal the fact that the costs, because people will have free preventative care, try to repeal the fact that costs for our health care as a society will be going down. When you have health, when you are able to go to a doctor or a dentist on a regular fashion, you are healthier throughout your life. If you wait till an emergency, you go to emergency room. Who pays for that? We all do. We all do. So it'll be cheaper for each individual. His or her health care will be cheaper throughout their life because they have access to preventative care, access to good health care. That's what everybody, and that's, by the way, you said, cut taxes and cut regulations. The Valley does need jobs. And we do need to get rid of stupid regulations. But we need health care. We need education. We need to clean up the New River. We need to clean up the Salton Sea. We need to do all that stuff, not just cut taxes.
Your rebuttal?
Yes. Dare me to repeal it, I'll absolutely repeal it, because the second you try and make an American citizen buy something he doesn't want to, he's going to say it's unconstitutional, and he's going to be right. It's unconstitutional legislation. Now let's get beyond that. It's absolutely dishonest. If you're going to sit up there and tell me you're going to insure 140,000 new people in this community with the same number of doctors, same number of nurses, and do it for less money,